couple
Well,
more.
I've got one I've got to tell now, and so what
All
the
right,
heck?
go
We
for
don't
it.
have any structure for this anyway.
No.
But as you, yeah, he was, as you say, he was this very accomplished guy who had flown, like he walked on the moon. I remember him as a kid. I remember him flying on Apollo 10 down to the surface. I think it was Apollo 16 he was on when he walked on the moon. And he was in any first space shuttle, as you said, you said all these accomplishments. And when we joined, Garrett, right, I was selected in 96. You came in right the next class in 98. And he was still an active astronaut. Not only was he head of the selection board, but he was an active astronaut and still flying a T-38. Did you ever get to flying a T-38 with him?
Yes, and we
All right,
almost
okay.
died.
All right, so
That's
so
another
uh,
story.
so I couldn't believe how lucky we were to get a chance to to work with this hero. He was one of
Yeah.
us. He'd see him in the gym and talk to him in the office, and he was just this great guy. And I remember telling him, I go, look, John, if when you're flying T-38, and when we were trained, just for the audience to know, Garrett, you're a very accomplished pilot. I have some hours. I'm a private pilot as well, but not as many as you. You have your own airplane and so on. But we were trained to be co-pilots in the T-38 to fly with our astronaut test pilot comrades and also the instructor pilots out at Ellington Field that we had. And John Young was, of course, an astronaut pilot, a test pilot. So he would fly in the front seat of the airplane, and one of us would fly in the back. And so for early on, I went to him and said, John, if you ever have an open back seat, I would love I would be honored to fly with you. And he goes, okay, Mike, and sure enough, like a couple of days later, he pokes his head in my office. He goes, Mike, what are you doing next week on Wednesday? And I go, why? He said, I'm flying out to Ames Research Center, which was out in California. And so from Houston, it was a few hops. We landed we stopped in El Paso and in Vegas, and out to fly the simulator out in California. They had a vertical motion simulator that we would go fly out there. And he said, and we'll go. He goes, I got to go. He goes, but I go and come. I go there and back in one day, which is kind of unusual because it's like 6 flights to get out there, to go there and come back. And so he's like, we got to leave really early in the morning. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, this is great. So I cleared off the whole day and got there very early, and we taxi out there. It was funny things were happening the whole day, but the highlight was coming back, and I had spent the whole day with this guy, and got a chance to learn from him in the simulator, and I got him telling stories. It was getting late at night. The sun. We were like over New Mexico or someplace where there's no chatter on the over the radio. No, they just you just for a while you just the two of you up there talking. At a high altitude. It was a beautiful, sun was starting to go down, just a beautiful end to a day. And I started asking him stuff about, what it was like back in the day. And he told me some of the stories about going to the White House with his family, which were kind of funny. And some of the guys he worked, some of the astronauts back then. And so then I finally worked up the courage to ask him, what was it like on the moon? And now this is my chance. Here's one of the only 12 people that ever walked on the moon. And I'm here with him. And I said, John, tell me what was it like? What was it like when you got on the moon? What was that like? And he had this sort of southern drawl to him when he spoke, and he said, well, Mike, I tell you, the best thing about it is you finally could take a dump. I was like, what? I was expecting to hear something like, I saw God. I saw something. I contemplated on what humanity was about. And I'm like, I looked at the earth and it was so small, something like that. And he goes, and that's what he tells me. And I go, what? And he goes, well, Mike, you don't know yet. You haven't been in space yet. But when you're floating around in space and you're zero gravity, sometimes you just get bunged up. Nothing's regular. You can't go. But you get on that moon and that's that 1/6 gravity and you finally can let loose. And I was like, holy cow. But that's kind of was him, always kind of downplay everything. But that's what it was like. That's what it was like. That's what he wanted to tell me about the moon. But he told me some great stories that day. And it was great, as you say, it was great getting a chance to know him and being friends with him was such an honor. Such a great guy.